Om Ahum Vajra Guru Padma Siddhi Hum. With that mantra, I invite Padmasambhava to join us today in this shrine room, because Padmasambhava is directly responsible for me standing here in front of you today. And I'd welcome his support as I enter into my own personal cremation ground of public speaking and face up to some of my old demons. So Sadharaja recently invited me to give a short talk today on how Padmasambhava has transformed my life. I'll get on to that in a minute, but to make sure that everyone understands the punchline of my story, I first need to tell you a little story about Padmasambhava himself. So, during his lifetime, as Simone said, Padmasambhava composed many texts which he buried in various places around Tibet. These texts are known as terma, or hidden treasures, which Padmasambhava intended to be discovered at the time when the time was right for the teaching they contained to be revealed. One of these termas is a series of instructions on 6 types of liberation called the Bardo Todol. It was discovered by Karma Lingpa, who was an incarnation of one of Padmasambhava's 25 chief disciples. We have come to know these texts in the West as the Tibetan Book of the Dead. So the key thing for you to remember is that Padmasambhava wrote the Tibetan Book of the Dead. So, on to my description of how Padmasambhava transformed my life. He did it by telling me in no uncertain terms to stop messing around and ask for ordination. In 2021, I had finished 4.5 years of Mitra study and found that once the weekly Mitra study evenings stopped, my involvement with the Buddhist centre slowly became more and more sporadic. I took part in study groups when they were offered. I supported the occasional course here at the Buddhist centre, and I attended the Sangha night, as it was then called, fairly reasonably regularly. But there was nothing really keeping me in touch with the Dharma on a daily or weekly basis. Meanwhile, I was retired and enjoying a full and happy life. I was seeing lots of my family, playing tennis, going on holiday, volunteering in my village, and doing other things I enjoyed. I had a good, full life, and maybe that was enough. The trouble is, I couldn't unlearn what I'd learnt about the Dharma. It kept niggling away at me. The sense that there was actually more to life than playing tennis, going on holiday, and gardening could offer. I was stuck. I didn't want to ask for ordination. Me? Join a religious order? No way! But deep down, I wasn't entirely satisfied with my very good life. Over the months, I found myself wanting to ask for ordination. But the truth was, I didn't want to ask, and I couldn't force myself to want to ask. I took comfort in the metaphor of a flower opening. You can't force a flower to open. It will do so of its own accord when it's ready and the conditions are right for it to do so. So I told myself I was like a lotus flower waiting to unfold, and I just had to be patient. I don't know how long I might have spent in this rather unsatisfactory state if Padmasambhava hadn't intervened while I was on a retreat led by Paramananda at Vajraloka in 2022. The retreat was called The Other Side of Insight, and the main practice was just sitting. So near the start of the retreat, there was an amazing puja to Padmasambhava led by Upekshanandi. This started with the 7-line invocation to Padmasambhava in Tibetan, which Sadharaja read at the beginning. And it included tales from his life and lots of noise and drumming. So it's quite possible that the great Guru was there with us at Vajraloka during the following 10 days of that retreat. He decided to intervene in my life just after I'd gone to bed one night. So I should say that I had started very recently trying to read poetry just before the retreat, having generally avoided it all my life because I'd never really learnt how to read poems, and whenever I tried to read a poem, I invariably didn't understand the ending and found it all very frustrating. But someone had given me a book and some encouragement, and so I was trying to learn how to read poetry and enjoy it. So imagine my delight when I discovered very early on in this retreat that someone had left a book of Maitreya Bandhu's poetry in my bedside cabinet. I decided it was a sign, of course. Someone was trying to encourage me to read poetry. So I set about reading a few poems every night before going to sleep. And I was finding them reasonably accessible. With hindsight, I now believe that Padmasambhava maybe played a part in how that book came to be in the bedside cabinet. This particular evening, I'd gone to bed and I'd read 2 poems, The Marker and The Dolphin, and then I started on a third entitled New Year's Eve, Sydney. This seemed to be a straightforward poem about the joys, sorrows, distractions of samsara on a particular New Year's Eve in Sydney, Australia. But right at the end of the poem, the great Guru barged in and started shouting at me. I'll read you the poem so you can see just how it happened. New Year's Eve, Sydney, by Maitreya Bandhu. After the fireworks above the bridge, bouquets erupting in reverse in the black water of the harbour, gun echoes, cannon echoes, claps and long fizzes resounding off apartment blocks, children writing Happy New Year in sparkler on the near dark, adults tipping champagne into unstable plastic cups, teenagers wearing pulsating blue light jewellery, while nearby a party starts up in the orangey lit aquarium of a kitchen. After we'd walked up the hill with blankets, then back again among dead-eyed wooden bungalows, and I was so unhappy because this would be the year I'd lose you, we saw a man walking his dog stop in the neon pool of a street light, look up at the sky, and there, on the slung telephone wire, a kookaburra, like some great quiet soul, came to watch over us. Oh, procrastinating one, devoting yourself to the useless doings of this life. Mistaken indeed would your purpose now be if you returned empty-handed from this life. Oh my goodness. Maitreya Bandhu was talking directly to me. What is my purpose? Am I going to reach the end of my life without ever discovering it? I had no idea what my purpose is. But I knew there and then that the best way for me to discover my purpose would be for me to immerse myself more fully in Triratna life. Those words kept coming back to me over the next few days. Oh, procrastinating one. Then, one afternoon in the little lounge at Vajraloka, it slowly occurred to me that I now wanted to ask for ordination. I hadn't consciously made a rational decision about this. I hadn't even been thinking about it explicitly. But somehow, a deeper transformation had taken place, and there was now no need for a rational decision to be made. My heart wanted to join the order. To make sure I didn't slip back in this resolve, in the tune-out at the end of the retreat, I told Paramananda and all the retreatants in the shrine room at Vajraloka that I had decided to ask for ordination. Paramananda was delighted, but he also pointed out that those 2 lines at the end of the poem that had had such an effect on me had not been written by Maitreya Bandhu at all. They were taken from the root verses of the Tibetan Book of the Dead and were therefore written by Padmasambhava. So that's how Padmasambhava transformed my life. Since asking for ordination, my external life now includes such activities as going to a weekly Going for Refuge group, attending ordination training retreats, meeting regularly with order member friends and Sangha friends, and engaging more with the Dharma, as well as my family, gardening, holidays and tennis. But the actual transformation has taken place internally and is continuing. I can feel myself orienting more and more towards the 3 jewels. I've noticed, for example, that every time I interact with the Dharma or the Sangha, I come away feeling open, uplifted and happy. This is not the case with all of the other activities I still pursue in my very good worldly life. I still very much enjoy my life, but it now has a purpose that pervades nearly everything I do. So I feel immensely grateful to Padmasambhava for giving me the shove I needed, and to Maitreya Bandhu for being the vehicle through whom he delivered his message. As a kind of epilogue to this story, when I got home after the retreat, I looked up the root verses of the Tibetan Book of the Dead and found the verse that Maitreya Bandhu had used in his poem, which had sparked me to ask for ordination as a means of helping me to discover my purpose. And it turned out that the very next 2 lines in the verse, following those chosen by Maitreya Bandhu, confirmed that by asking for ordination, I had made the right move. O procrastinating one, devoting yourself to the useless doings of this life, mistaken indeed would your purpose now be if you returned empty-handed from this life. Since the Holy Dharma is known to be your true need, will you not devote yourself to the Holy Dharma even now? Thank you.